In this video, we'll show you how we can use the ratio between past irrigation amounts and evapotranspiration rates to make future irrigation decisions. You'll find all the information you need in the plot list. The evapotranspiration rate is applicable to the whole operation, so we pin the daily values and weekly sum to the top. The weekly sum of the applied irrigation is visible alongside each plot, along with the applied weekly ratio or crop factor. That's irrigation divided by evapotranspiration. And finally, the colours that indicate the daily plant status act like a scorecard for that ratio. If there are orange or red days present, then the ratio may be too low. If there are dark green days, the ratio may be too high. A week of light green is a good sign that the ratio is correct. Depending on the soil type, root structure, plant species and phenological stage, it may be possible to affect the plant status outcome by altering the frequency, timing or duration of the irrigation events. For example, the summer irrigation of a mature almond tree with high fruit load growing in sandy soil should be carefully considered. You'd need to time the irrigation to coincide with the demands of the tree. Irrigating at night may leave the tree susceptible to stress during the critical photosynthesis period of the day, which will result in reduced yields or increased water usage. The position of the irrigation data on the timeline with the daily plant status makes it easy to see what's working and what's not. Now we can move on to make an irrigation decision for tomorrow. For this plot, an irrigation to evapotranspiration ratio of 0.85 over the last week has kept the plants happy using a regime of daily irrigation. We can multiply the same ratio by the evapotranspiration forecast for tomorrow to determine a suitable irrigation amount. 0.85 times by 7.5 millimetres equals 6.4 millimetres. Our orchard irrigation rate is 1 millimetre per hour, so let's plan to irrigate for 6.5 hours, starting at 10 a.m. The next day we can review that decision using the plant status. Let's think through how we can react to different results. If it's green, we can be confident in the 0.85 ratio and keep using it. If it's showing stress, perhaps orange, we can consider increasing the ratio for the future, perhaps to 0.9. If it's dark green, indicating a potentially saturated state, then maybe we can decrease it to 0.8 for tomorrow's decision. You can use the same approach if you are irrigating less frequently, like every third day. Just use the data of the last 2 weeks to inform your decision. It's also important to understand how rain can influence irrigation decisions. Although we've found the hyperlocal weather data we use to calculate evapotranspiration to be accurate, the hyperlocal rainfall data is not so reliable. Given that rain doesn't fall uniformly, you likely even notice differences in rainfall from one side of your farm to the other. That makes it hard to accurately know how much rain each plot received. Another issue is that the pattern of rainfall doesn't usually match the pattern of irrigation. A 10 millimetre rain event is quite different to a 10 millimetre irrigation event on a drip system. That's why we use a small blue line on the timeline to indicate the days when rainfall was likely present. And when you're planning ahead, if you know there is a high chance of rain, you may want to reduce your irrigation accordingly. Keep these things in mind when you're making irrigation decisions. But remember that the daily plant status will identify plots which have too much or too little available to them. If you've stopped irrigating because of a large rainfall event, then use the plant status indicators to know when to start irrigating again.